Welcome to Game Point. I'm Matt Smith.
And I'm Vernon Tucker, and we're here to talk about everything dealing with sports, pop culture, and everything in between.
This week on Game Point, Matt and Vernon are discussing grumpy old man Shaquille O'Neal. Like, has he gone too far? And who's better, Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes? We'll also be celebrating the legacy of an NBA great, the one and only Kobe Bryant. And we are doing a battle rap recap, Smack Volume 7. It's going down right here this week on Game Point. So let's get into it. Matt, what's on your mind?
What's been on my mind this week is we lost a legend, the home run king, Hank Aaron. Died at the age of 86, and obviously he had the home run record of 755 home runs. He had an amazing 25 All-Star game appearances, which is crazy. But what I'll always remember most about Hank Aaron is the dignity and class that he always held himself in despite racism, death threats, and all sorts of other foolishness. He was always a class act. Vernon, how about you? What's been on your mind?
I mean, I'm right on board with you, Matt. Like, I feel like definitely a class act, class personified. But I read an article by Kevin Blackstone of the Washington Post this week, and it referenced Babe Ruth's record was a mythical monument of white superiority, and Hank tore it down. What he did in 74 when he broke that record, I think it was much bigger than what baseball was because it was representation for us, Black people weren't allowed to play baseball until the 40s. So for him, hell of a legacy, man, like on the field and off the field. Speaking of legacies and white superiority, Matt, we got a big game coming up, man. You got Tom Brady going up against Patrick Mahomes for the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
And I think it's kind of similar, like you got a guy like Tom who he has that Babe Ruth type career, pure white guy. And then you got a kid like Patrick Mahomes who, mixed kid, but black kid who he's in line to be that next GOAT, or someone that's in that GOAT conversation, Matt, especially if he beats Brady this time. What are your thoughts on Mahomes and his trajectory?
Mahomes is incredible. Obviously, he's on pace to shatter all the records. His trajectory where he's at this stage of his career is ahead of any quarterback who's ever done it. So statistically, winning wise, if he wins another Super Bowl this young, I think basically he's going to spend the rest of his career, if he stays healthy, chasing and passing all the greats. I think he has the potential to go down in history as the GOAT. We're not saying Mahomes is Hank Aaron yet. Obviously, he's not. Hank Aaron did it. He had his whole career, all of his numbers and accolades. The point here is that Patrick Mahomes is at this sample size of stage of his career, he's eye-poppingly, by far and away, outdistancing any other quarterback, star or otherwise. So his numbers project to be, if not the GOAT, he's going to be in that discussion. If he stays healthy, he's got to continue on this pace. That's no guarantee, but he's already won one Super Bowl and he's headed to another this year. So there's a potential for him at this young age to have 2 rings and stats that are far outdistancing every other quarterback who's ever done it. So
I just don't want the white superiority to impact how we speak of him in the future, and that's all. We've seen it with Hank, they speak about Babe Ruth all the time and try to diminish what the black people accomplished. So I'm just not into that,
I hear you, brother. But another point, though, in this discussion with Tom Brady, though, this is his 10th Super Bowl. How do you feel about that? What, the magnitude of 10 Super Bowls? You can't really slight that. I can't as a Raider fan. I got issues with Tom Brady. But at a certain point, there's enough winning in his resume that you just have to acknowledge this dude is ridiculous.
Yeah, Matt, spades are spades, man. And you're talking about, quite possibly the baddest man to ever throw a football, to toss a football around, at this point, He's
in that discussion. His winning has earned that. I don't agree with that, but I understand the argument.
Quite possibly, Matt. That's all, quite possibly. But in terms of the 10 Super Bowls, you're watching something that we've never seen before, and I'm just glad that I'm alive to be able to witness it firsthand,
Well, now, you touched on something earlier, though, about kind of the race factor here with Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth and some of those things that went on during his run. With Tom Brady, how does the MAGA, the support of Donald Trump, does that impact? Is that in your head at all as you evaluate how the Super Bowl narratives or the storylines? What is your thoughts on that?
I think when you talk about the support of Donald Trump, during the times that they were supporting him, I think it's inexcusable. I think it's irresponsible. But if you love the game, judge the game based off of what the game is, as opposed to judging the player by, you know, what their political choices are. And it's difficult, you know, it's conflicting at times, but it doesn't sit well with me, you know. Like, I think him and Drew Brees can like ride off into whatever sunset they want to ride off into, and I wouldn't care two shits about them past this point. But for entertainment purposes, you know, go out there and bash brains in, you know.
Yes, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, they can ride off into the sunset. And in the case of Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, and Aaron Rodgers, those big name quarterbacks all may be riding off into the sunset and retiring. So what do you think about that news, Vernon? Those guys retiring? Any opinion on that?
I think it hurts the game when we lose, if we lose this many quarterbacks at once, right? And I don't know if Aaron is out. Aaron may just be out of Green Bay, you know, like that remains yet to be seen, you know. But with Drew Brees and Phillip in particular, it's been great to watch these guys pile on stats. You're talking about Phillip, who he has over 63,000 passing yards and 400 plus touchdowns over his career, you know. Drew Brees, I love him to death, but I think it's time for him to go, you know. He played these past couple of seasons, and I feel like he was stat chasing a lot as opposed to like trying to win the game or trying to make the team better when he's not there. So I think it is time for those guys to go. And I think they're both two Hall of Fame careers. So
you're saying he wasn't trying to win? He's like, what's a stat chasing game? Like, obviously you're trying to put up numbers to win. You think Brees was strictly just padding?
Some numbers are empty numbers though, Matt. Like, if you look at Westbrook in basketball, you know, like you can stat chase, you know, like you can stat pad. I just feel like a lot of times, like, you got to take a step back, especially if you're physically injured.
All right, well, let me rebut some of that, Vernon. So Drew Brees, for instance, stat padding. I think that's nonsense. He's out there. He's playing football. He's a great quarterback. He puts up big numbers. He's been doing that his whole career. I get you kind of that maybe, you know, there's some milestones. Like, I want to keep playing until I pass this or pass that. But I think he's trying to win. And let me rewind back a little bit to the Tom Brady discussion. I don't know that we can expect all these players to be voting with the same political interest. I mean, I think at a certain point, it's definitely not going to go over well in the locker room if you have a character like our last president. You know, that's going to be divisive. So you got to live with that if you choose to publicly endorse. I don't love it. I have my issues with Tom Brady more so because I'm a Raider fan and the Snow Bowl, the Tuck game. So anyway, that's my issue with that dude.
Don't get it fucked up. Like, that red hat doesn't impact how he throws the football. You know, like, he's still my Super Bowl favorite. You know, like, I still think that they're going to pull through and win this Super Bowl coming up. You know, who do you have ahead of the big game?
And I'm going Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes it's his time. Tom Brady, it's over. You know, not over for him being a high level quarterback, but I don't mean over like obviously he's in the Super Bowl. But I'm just saying, to me, it's like his Super Bowl winning days. As long as Mahomes is on watch, I'm going Patrick Mahomes.
And see, that's the thing, Matt. Like, you do have to put up big stats to win games and all of that shit, man. But in the basketball world, we had another legend who sat there in a post-game interview with Donovan Mitchell of the Utah Jazz, Shaquille O'Neal, so I'm talking about. And
are you about to say something bad about Shaquille O'Neal?
See, listen, Matt, I'm on the team now, man. I'm on the team. I'm not gonna.
Go ahead. Let me let you finish.
But Shaquille O'Neal pulled Donovan Mitchell in the post-game interview, and he told Donovan after scoring 36 points, I believe, in the winning effort, told him, "I don't think you have what it takes to get to the next level."
You are one of my favorite players, but you don't have what it takes to get to the next level. I said it on purpose. I wanted you to hear it. What do you have to say about that?
All right. That's it.
That's it?
All right. That's it.
Okay, cool.
I mean,
I wanted you to hear it.
I've been hearing, Shaq, I've been hearing that since my rookie year. You know, I'm just going to get better and do what I do.
Good.
At the end of the day.
Well, that's what I wanted you to hear you say.
What's your take on that, Matt? Is that tough love, like Shaq put it, or is that like slight or hate?
I think it was misguided tough love. I agree. I heard the interview. I think Shaq's intentions, because I think Shaq took those kinds of slights and charges or like anything he could make a perceived slight, he would use as motivation. So maybe he thinks that would be helpful for some of these other players.
Nah. You didn't do that when Kobe was telling you to work out and to train harder and to be the best player on the court every night. You took offense to that. So don't try to. Yeah, he did. Yeah,
I don't recall. To me, they won 3 titles. What do you mean?
His work ethic was always in question, Matt.
But the object of the game is to win. They won 3 titles. Went to 4 finals.
If your work is preventing us from winning because you're out of shape. You're coming into training camp out of shape. Your cardio is fucked up. Your endurance is fucked up. Then now we're no longer winning. So when you were challenged by someone that was equally as strong-minded as you are, you ran from that challenge. Like I disagree with that. I think this is another case of this current generation being attacked by the older generation unnecessarily.
Oh, so you think this is a generational problem? This isn't just the Shaq, Donovan Mitchell problem. You think old heads are hateful?
I think they can be, and they've proven that time and time again. You know,
maybe you might you be sensitive?
It's not sensitivity, Matt. We're in a different era, man.
Ralph Tresvant?
If I'm getting scolded or if my mother is chastising me in the comforts of my home, then that's fine. But if she puts me on social media in front of 8 million people so that they can now chime in on what our personal interactions are, that's a different conversation.
That's fair.
I don't know how Michael Jordan would have responded if Phil Jackson would have called him out in a social media era.
Wait a second. Your generation wants to live half their life on Instagram, and then you get mad when a sports announcer tells you,
solid point,
step it up, work a little harder.
That's
what do you want?
You didn't say step it up, work a little harder. You said, I don't know.
He said step it up, work a little harder. He's trying to motivate.
Call me on the side. You can get my number, Big Diesel. Say, hey, bro, I need you to step it up. You need to go a little bit harder. But don't make this a public display. Like, you don't get points for that.
Here's the thing. With most of these conversations, it's all about nuance. I think Shaq could have handled this better, but I do think he was trying to inspire Donovan to be greater than I think he sees greatness in the kid like we all do, and I think he was trying to inspire him. Does Donovan need to hear that? No. Does Donovan? I don't think it was necessary. I'm just saying if we're trying to judge Shaq's
what is this next level, man? What is this next level? You're talking about a kid. You're talking about a kid who goes from 23 points to 24 points, 24.5 points per game, to averaging 36 in the bubble last year in the playoffs. Like, what is the next level? He averaged 36 points in the
championships, rings and things.
Come on, man. Like, we can't do that.
That's the goal. The object of the game is to win.
Matt, I just came in to get on your side. Vernon X is tilted today. The point is to win. You can have all the stats you want and no rings. It means nothing. And I, for one,
that's not
find it offensive that you're suggesting Shaq needs to slide in his DMs with a little pep talk.
Yeah, like don't throw shit at these kids, man. Like, they're not going to respond well to that.
So tough love doesn't work for you, is what you're saying.
It's not. It depends on how you're giving me that tough love. If you're administering that tough love and I feel like this is private, then cool. But you're not going to chastise me publicly or make this a thing publicly. No.
I will agree that this is not an effective way of communication.
Matt, doesn't this feel a little bit like every kid's got to get a trophy?
You know, that is commonplace in the new generation.
I mean, I feel you, but also, like, I would much rather that be the focus as opposed to pulling each other down, man. It's like, I don't need you to be nice to me, but you don't have to be an asshole to me either. We don't have to be anything. I don't owe you anything. You don't owe me anything. You can just
wait. Can we give chat? Wait. I think critiquing someone, this is where this generation, Matt, gets it all twisted. If you critique them in public, you're pulling them down.
Why are you doing
this? A sports commentator. It is his job to comment on what he sees. He can be right and he can be wrong. And the other thing where you got to give Shaq credit, he said it to his face. It's not like he said it somewhere else. He said it to his face in an interview. And the dude said he didn't have much to say. So come on.
Donovan said he's been hearing it his whole life, man, but he didn't hear it his whole life coming on a TNT broadcast. Like, it's different, man. That's all I'm saying. It's different.
No rings.
That's fair. No rings. Give him some time. He's a kid.
Well, okay, to your other point, though, about this just being generational, I think there could be some truth to that. This is the social media era. So maybe, you know, the way we communicate is different. I think does.
Whoa. No, it's not even communication with this. Like, you got Shaq, who he hated on Dwight Howard every step of the way since that kid has been in the NBA.
Facts.
El McGee was another victim of his. Like, he's notoriously been this person. So now he's
a habitual.
Yeah, we're not going to hide it under, no, I care for you, Donovan. I'm trying to make sure you step it up. No, bro, I don't need a big bro. I'm good. I don't need that from you.
All right, so that's enough battling on this Shaq versus Donovan Mitchell thing. Let's actually, we're going to battle. why don't we talk about battle rap? A passion of both of ours. We're both big URL fans, King of the Dot, all these. I mean, we're into this culture. So for any of our viewers who are not into battle rap, you need to pay attention. We're about to learn you some battle rap, but we're both heavily into battle rap. So there was recently an event, Smack 7, which is actually, Vernon, can you give the people a little game? Explain the leagues. Explain what Smack Volume 7 is for our viewers who don't know.
So Smack is one of the pioneers of the battle rap scene, man. And it's basically, you know, you got two guys who they go against each other most times, and they do all of this research ahead of time, trying to dig up dirt on their opponent, and then they come out, and it's like a wrestling match with words. You know, it's an elbow off of the top rope. Somebody's talking about someone's father being a snitch, or somebody's talking about someone's baby mother being a thought, or whatever it is. You know, like there's no holds barred. Anything goes. You try to maintain a composure where you don't fight, but sometimes it spills over, man. But in my opinion, it's one of the most raw and genius ways to articulate yourself using words, man. You know?
I completely agree. And this particular event, Smack Volume 7, just happened past weekend. And I know it was a lot of big names on the card, from DNA versus Av, K-Shine versus Chilla Jones. Did you have any favorite matchups from the week?
I would say my favorite matchup was probably K-Shine, right? And K-Shine is a kid out of, I believe he's from Harlem, like super gangbanger, blood rapper guy, you know, like aggressive. He uses the style that we call like gun bars. And that's what like every bar or every metaphor is something dealing with like some type of like firearm, right? Super aggressive. He represents the old school battle rap style, you know.
And where did you see this?
On Caffeine. I watched it on Caffeine. But if you download the URL app, you can catch the replays now. Everything goes back to the URL app once it leaves Caffeine. But K-Shine, who represents like the old school, like gangsta gun bars, he went against
Chilla Jones.
And Chilla, you know, he's like a newer style kid, right? Like he's not necessarily young, but he doesn't have that old tough guy persona about him. So it was just interesting to me to see how ineffective, in my opinion, the gun bars were against someone who's clearly telling you, hey man, I'm just here to rap and I'm a better rapper than what you are. It's not about performance, you know?
For me, it was DNA versus Av. And for anybody who doesn't watch battle rap, DNA he's a genius technician. Like he's not a tough guy. He's not out here killing. Like actually, he recently stopped talking about guns in his battle raps because that's not really his real lifestyle. But he's just really clever. He has mastered all kinds of styles. But he went up against Av, who's like a big, tough-looking bully. It's kind of like Charles Oakley going up against, you know, Steph Curry or, you know, whatever, like a fundamentally sound guard against a big bully, big man. But DNA, to me, and they both performed well, but DNA had one of his best battles ever.
DNA slayed the giant, or not the giant in terms of like placement in rap, battle rap, but like in terms of like stature, like DNA, he slayed the giant, you know? And when I look at battle rap, a guy like DNA, I would liken him to someone that's closer to like a Nas, Jay-Z type era type person, where, you know, he has that respect in the game and he has that tenure in the game, you know? Some days he may have spent, or some years he may have spent peaking to be number 1, number 2 in the game, but he was always right there every step of the way.
So when you're at the top of the game in battle rap, where are you? Are you signed? Are you an independent? How am I hearing your music? What's happening?
Once people get signed, you kind of have to like blow and go like triple platinum or some crazy shit like that, because if you ever need to go back to battle rap, that's enough ammunition for everybody to attack you and say, you know, you were signed to such and such label. What are you doing back here with us type deal, you know? But just being like the king of the ring type deal, you know? Recently, they started actually like tallying up the votes, and they'll ask on air who's the winner and who's the loser. But the culture hasn't been that since its existence, you know, since it's been birthed. So it's just kind of like the public spoke on who won and who lost and who's the king and who's next up, et cetera, you know?
Well, Vernon, just for right now, for this room right here, we're voting. Who are your top 3 current battle rappers? Who's on the Vernon charts? Who are you ranking?
So are we doing with the crowd or no crowd? And what that means is, for the listeners, with the crowd is like traditional battle rap. Like that's the classic style of battle rap where you have a room packed with hundreds of people and like every word gets amplified or every bar gets amplified because people have fans and they're gonna like ooh and ah to everything they're doing, you know. And some people like K-Shine, like they feed off of that energy. But a person like Chilla Jones, he can rap in that small room where it's just about the words and the crowd doesn't really play a factor. So are we talking big room, no crowd, or just overall?
Just overall.
So current right now, I got Geechee. I really like Geechee. Geechee Gotti. He's a kid that's out of is it Los Angeles?
Compton. He's from Compton.
Yeah. Like super crip, super witty. Like he has the ability to like flip that and turn the gangster shit against you or turn the educated shit against you. You know, depending upon who his opponent is. I really like DNA still. You know, like DNA is just one of those classic guys who can go in any era, any battle, and dust his cape off and get busy. And my third spot is between Arsenal and Sue, because to me they kind of have like similar styles, like both of them coming from Newark, I believe, or coming from Jersey, rather. Again, like, you know, gang members who use the gun bars and stuff like that, but they have a bit of wit to them that I feel like the super ignorant guys don't have, you know?
Well, first off, I think you cheated off my paper, because for me it's DNA and Geechee are my two favorite. And then for me, third place, I'm a Lux fan, Loaded Lux out of Harlem. I enjoy his
brother. Okay, good brother.
I enjoy his performance. There's a lot of guys I like, but those are so for those of y'all, go on YouTube, URL, Smack videos. Like there's so many battle raps you can watch. I've gone down the rabbit hole way too much. It's a little bit of a guilty addiction that I just watch all these battle raps. But
how would you describe Lux's style though? Like what type of
Lux is the conscious. He's super smart. He is the elder statesman. Him and Mook, you know, those guys, they've been in the game probably the longest of the guys who are still relevant. But Lux is just smart. He's always going to have an elevated scheme or elevated strategy to like tear you up verbally.
That's why I wish that B Chilla would have taken Sue's advice during the battle during Smack 7 and call out Lux during this time, you know, like call out one of the legends that you actually need to beat to solidify yourself, you know? So hopefully we'll see that in the next big battle that's coming up.
One last thought in terms of rap battle groups. NWX is my favorite rap battle group, which is K-Shine and DNA. They put on a show. But speaking of groups, let's flip it up into hip hop groups. I need to know your all-time most influential hip hop group.
All right, man. So it's easy for me. Like I tell you, it's easy for me. So for me, it's Cash Money, the Hot Boys in particular, right? Cash Money is the label, straight out of New Orleans. Put together some of your favorite classic ratchet hits from, you know, whatever era you want to discuss, right? From the 99 and the 2000s and on, you know. But to me, the Hot Boys style was imitated too much throughout the South for me to not go with them, you know. I look at a cat like Juvenile, who he drops a cultural classic at least, right? Like a lot of like East Coast people, they don't admit it or they don't acknowledge it because it wasn't something they listened to. But he drops 400 Degrees, and 400 Degrees goes on to put everything in motion and, you know, get the big labels listening. They end up signing a deal with Universal. They take over. They introduced the world to the New Orleans dress style, which was tees, bows, and rees, t-shirts, Reebok.
Wait, tees, bows, and what?
Tees, bows, and rees. So tees are the t-shirts, obviously. Rees are the Soldier Reeboks. That's what we used to wear. And then the bows are the jeans, the Maurice.
Bows.
Yeah. So, you know, that was the style. Bandanas, gold teeth, you know, whatever.
So you're saying that this is the most influential rap group of all time, Vernon? The Hot Boys? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And I'm basing that off of cultural impact. Their breakout star, Lil Wayne, he went on to be one of the, you know, top rappers for his era. Like, to me, like, there's no question that those guys are in that conversation.
Oh, in that conversation. I'm glad you said that. In that conversation.
Where you're from, you know, I get it. I kind of know where you're going, but let's hear yours.
Vernon is deflecting from the question with his crazy assertion that the Hot Boys are the most influential hip hop group ever.
Yo,
not which group is in the conversation.
I was being respectful. I was being respectful.
Reese, bows, and tees.
Man. I was gonna let him shoot his shot first before I shot it down. I got more in the arsenal. This is battle rap you're watching.
All right. Well, I respectfully disagree. And I'm a fan. The Hot Boys, they had some joints. You know, who doesn't like Back That Ass Up when that comes on at a club? That's classic. Mm-hmm. But clearly, there's one answer to this question. And that's NWA. Like, they are the most influential rap group of all time. I'm not saying it's my favorite group of all time. That would be a Tribe Called Quest. But if we're talking influence, and if we're talking family tree, if we're talking just the whole reach, like NWA, it's Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, Ren, Eazy-E, Yella. But the three main members, Cube, Dre, and Eazy-E, and their impact on the culture and on the music, it's still being felt. In fact, the Hot Boys are their grandchildren. So let me
ask you this, Matt. Let me ask you this. So right now, right, in the current era of hip hop, right, which is, I think we're about 20 years from when the Hot Boys first made the impact on the scene, right? Meg Thee Stallion is calling herself a hot girl, right? Is that correct?
Doesn't she have a song where she uses Eazy-E's? Didn't she sample Eazy-E for one of her hits? That's
fair, but it wasn't an Eazy-E summer. It was a hot girl summer, Matt. It wasn't an Eazy-E summer. That song was hard. The Eazy-E sample, that was a hard song. But if you look at DJ Mustard, if you look at Juicy J, if you look at Drake, if you look at pretty much any main producer or artist that has had some type of hit over the past 20 years, they've collaborated with Cash Money and the Hot Boys to some extent, And NWA, granted, they were politically charged and stuff like that. So that goes kind of on a more consistent everyday thing, right? But I'm just talking from a musical standpoint, who influenced the people who are currently in the game, who were in the game during their time. And I believe it's going to continue to go, because you're talking about, these guys that created this legendary sound that had not been heard before,
First off, let me just say this. NWA's catalog, from Straight Outta Compton and all the albums that came after that, the people in the group, I forgot the DOC, who is also a member of this group kind of is a part of the fam. Mm-hmm. Then you look at what Eazy-E did with Ruthless, Bone Thugs, what Dre did with Death Row,
but we're still talking
what Cube did.
I'm not talking sales and all of that stuff. I'm not talking
but all of those, all of the super groups that came out of this one group have continued. It's like the ripple effect. The ripple is still being felt from the NW. The influence is still being felt.
Now, see, to me, I think we got two different definitions of what influence is. To me, influence is I'm going to dress like this, and then they're gonna copy me. I'm going to sound like this, and then
can you tee him up, ref? Can we?
Yeah,
throw him out of the game.
Is two different interpretations of one question. Who was the most influential hip hop group ever?
Yeah, but
if you choose Cash Money,
now we have to break down what influence means.
Matt, if you choose NWA, which I think is a stellar choice, I must say.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
On to the next topic, people.
I'm just saying nothing NWA has ever done is better than Guerrilla Warfare or 400 Degrees. Rob.
Whoa, wait. That's called blasphemy. Just stop it.
Hey, man. Hey, call it what you want, man.
That's why Shaq needed to talk tough to you young folks. Anyway, it's time for the 24-second shot clock. That's what it's time for. And 24 is really the key number here. And in honor of the man who made 24 the number, the Black Mamba, our 24-second shot clock today is about our favorite Kobe Bryant memories. So I'm going to start this off and say my favorite Kobe Bryant memory. It's his final NBA game. You can't end a career any better. Like the 60-point walk-off performance, that is the most Kobe Bryant, most Black Mamba-esque thing ever. And I don't care how many shots it took him to do it. That was just epic. He had all the stars in the building on the edges of their seat. That is my favorite Kobe Bryant memory.
I'll admit, I spent a large part of my life kind of trying to ignore Kobe on the court because of personal discrepancies and stuff like that, right? I didn't really fully appreciate his greatness. When his highlights would come on, sometimes I would get annoyed and,
Covert, he was a hater for a long time.
For sure. I didn't like certain things that I had heard about him during the time. And I just felt, he wasn't the type of guy I would like to root for. But the older I got and the further he got into his career, I think we both changed. I think he changed the way he carried himself, like in the media and shit like that. And I started to appreciate it more. And my favorite moments are watching him coach his daughter's basketball team and just his love of the game and how he's able to transfer this killer Mamba mentality over to these young girls on their basketball court to, you know, be able to make them win. Like they had a team who beat their team by like, what was it? 30 points or something like that, Matt, I believe Gigi and them lost. And then we told them to remember this moment. They came back and beat the crap out of those girls.
Absolutely.
You know, so to me, knowing that he had that sweet spot as a dad and the type of killer that he was on the court, but still was able to put it together and connect with these girls, that's like some of my favorite things about him.
What time? I think it sounds like we're going into overtime.
That's right. We're going into producer overtime. I don't normally jump into your stories, guys, but Kobe was special to me as well. And I remember one summer I worked, Adidas hired my production company to film and follow Kobe around on the launch of his first sneaker by Adidas, the one that resembled the Audi. And years later, working on a show, which I worked on with Matt, I had to go to a press conference. And, you know, all the ESPN reporters are there. These guys are all like 6'5" with those extended church suits that you get that the coat comes to your knee. And it's just me in the scrum and all these guys who he sees every day. And when it comes to questions, he made his comment and he opened the floor up for questions. He went to me first. And I could feel all these guys going, who is this guy? And when it was over, I was like, do you remember me? And he goes, yeah, man, you were from Adidas. And I just felt like that was super cool because in a scrum like that, we didn't even think I'd get to ask a question. And he gave me that question because he remembered. And so that's my Kobe story.
I have a question. That's a great memory for that. Do you remember the question you asked him?
No.
I definitely agree. That was a great moment. But that brings this episode to a close. So rest in peace to Kobe Bryant, the Black Mamba. And tune in next week for more Game Point. I'm Matt Smith.
And I'm Vernon Tucker.